So Bryn and Lisa Do True Crime are sponsored by OD Collective. Oriental Drift is a highly quality boutique for men and women that offers a large range of alternative clothing for all ages and sizes, from shirts, jeans, joggers to footwear and sunglasses. As brand ambassadors for OD Collective, Bryn and I are proud to offer you, the listeners, a discount code on your entire OD order. Upon checkout, use the code Miss Lisa Appleton, MS Lisa Appleton, or Bryn CJ Hammond to receive 10% money off. Check out their latest swag by visiting www.orientaldrift.com today.
Welcome to So Bryn and Lisa Do True Crime. To all the newbies who have joined us for the first time this evening, I'm Bryn James Hammond, former editor of GZ Magazine, best-selling author of A Case of Murder, Brittany Murphy Files, and I am a specialist in true crime and pop culture journalism.
I'm Lisa Appleton, former bodybuilder, Big Brother 9-star and Daily Star sex doctor columnist, and I've also starred in over 80 reality primetime documentaries.
On last week's show, we began investigating the DeFeo mass murders. For those who have already listened to the episode, you will all to be aware of what's coming up on tonight's show. For the rest of you, episode 1 is now available on our pod RSS feed below, which is www.sobrynandlisa.podbean.com.
We ended last week's show soon after the bodies of the DeFeo family were discovered by Butch's best friend, Robert Bobby Kelsky, along with Joey Yeswit, John Altieri, Al Saxton and William scored Maglia.
We additionally addressed Butch's association with the organised crime from the Greenwich Village area, which has a colourful history all of its own. Another highlight of last week's episode was the revelation that Butch didn't commit the murders solo, and evidence suggests within the public domain that Butch had 3 accomplices, one of whom was his sister Dawn. On tonight's show, we will be focusing on the aftermath and look into the Amityville horror hauntings. And next week, we will continue the theme of the Amityville murders to wrap the 2 episodes up, before moving on to another true crime case.
So go uncork that bottle of wine, make yourself a brew or crack that chilled beer wide open and prepare yourself for crime and wine with Bryn and Lisa, because the Amityville murders episode 2 is about to get a hell of a lot darker here on in.
Soon after the men discovered the bodies of the DeFeo children, Dawn, Alice and Mark and John Matthew, Joey called the Amityville Police Department. The call, while brief, highlighted the gravity of the situation. The operator answered, "Suffolk County Police, may I help you?" Joey struggled to speak. "This is Suffolk County Police, may I help you?" Joey eventually replied, "We have a shooting here, DeFeo. Sir, what's your name?" After giving the operator his full name, they asked him to spell it for them. "Yeah, Y-E-S-W-I-T. After several attempts, the operator moved on. "Your phone number?" "I don't even know if it's here. I don't have a phone number here." "Okay, where are you calling from?"
Joey answered, "It's Amityville. Call up the Amityville Police and it's right off Ocean Avenue in Amityville, Austin." The operator replied, "Ocean Avenue? What the? Ocean Avenue? Off where?" "It's right off Merrick Road, Ocean Avenue." "Merrick Road? What's the problem, sir?" "It's a shooting." At this point, there is noise that can be heard clearly in the foreground. The operator continues, "There's a shooting. Anybody hurt?" "Anybody hurt?" "Yeah, it's, everybody's dead." "What you mean, everybody's dead?"
Joey, by all accounts, held himself together well, considering what he had just witnessed. "I don't know what happened. Kid come running into the bar. He says everybody in the family was killed, and we came down here." "Hold on a second, sir." At that point, a police officer took over the call. "What's your name?" Joey repeats his name. "George Edwards?" He again repeats his name. "Where are you at?" "I'm on Ocean Avenue." "What number?" "I don't have a number here. There's no number on the phone." "What number on the house?" "I don't even know that." This was a strange admission. Ocean Avenue is a long street just off Merrick Road. Amityville village in the town of Babylon is small. If you can picture the neighbourhood of Wisteria Lane and the ABC show Desperate Housewives, you're almost halfway there. And then there's the property's signature quarter moon windows on the top floor, which has since been replaced. The home was unmistakable. "Where are you at? Ocean Avenue and what?" the officer said again. "In Amityville. Call the Amityville police and have someone come down here. They know the family." "Amityville?" "Yeah, Amityville." "Okay, now tell me what's wrong." Again, Joey went over the situation. "I don't know. A guy came running into the bar. Guy come running in the bar and said that his mother and father are shot. We ran down to the house and everybody in the house is shot. I don't know how long, so
Again, another strange admission had been made by Joey. Besides not knowing where the property was, he also alleged that they had not taken Butch's car, but had made the 5-minute journey on foot. What's the ad? What's the address of the house? Hold on, let me go look up the number. Alright, hold on. Joey returned. 112 Ocean Avenue, Amityville. One what? 112 Ocean Avenue, Amityville. Is that Amityville or North Amityville? Amityville right on south of Merrick Road.
As Lisa noted, and I added previously, Joey had made several strange remarks during the telephone call to the police department. Not only did he not know the number of the property, but he also alleged during the 10-minute conversation that they had made their way to the house on foot. The officer began to pick up on these mistakes and approached the conversation from a different angle. "Is it in the village limits?" "No, it's, the high school?" For a man who didn't know where the home was located during his earlier conversation with the 911 operator, he clearly was aware of its situation in conjunction with the school, which could be seen from the Amityville backyard. "It's in the village limits, yeah," he stumbled. "That's in the village limits, right?" asked the police officer again. "Yeah, okay. What's your phone number?" "I don't even have one. There's no number on the phone." "All right. Where are you calling from? A public phone?" "No, I'm calling right from the house because I don't see a number on the phone." "You're at the house itself?"
"Yeah," Joey replied. "How many bodies are there?" I don't know. I think they said 4. There's 4? Yeah. "All right, you stay right there at the house and I'll call the Amityville Village PD and they'll come down." Joey was with John, Al and William when Bobby Kelsey led them around the home during discovery of the bodies. Later, Joey confessed to seeing more than he had wanted and called 911 only after John had rejoined them on the ground floor. The details given to the emergency operator by Joey were a contradiction to what had actually unfolded. Bobby drove at full speed to the property and pulled the car to a quick halt, and all the men climbed out. The men who accompanied Butch to 112 Ocean Avenue did not walk to the home. On arrival, the house was quiet except for the barking dogs who were tied up. It was Bobby who left the crime scene first, after becoming overwhelmed, and he was taken downstairs past the life-size portraits of family members that hung on the staircase wall to the sitting room, visibly showing the men how many lived within the home. Joey had already seen the bodies of Ronald Joseph DeFeo, Sr., 43, and his wife, Louise DeFeo. John discovered the bodies of Butch's siblings alone and relayed this to the men prior to the 911 call. At 6:30 p.m, Butch first informed the men at Henry's bar that his entire family were dead, originally only declaring, "You gotta help me, I think my mother and father are shot."
A newspaper clipping from that period, available in the Amityville library, states, however, that Butch had already declared his entire family dead at the bar. A news anchor who was digging for dirt soon after the murder also confirmed that he had spoken to patrons at the bar that night who confirmed Butch had announced his entire family were indeed dead, and that he thought it was organised crime related. And during the 3-minute journey to the home in Butch's car, the men questioned Butch over and over again, and he said he believed all 6 members of his family were dead, as his siblings hadn't gone to their grandparents like they should have done. Whether trauma played a part in Joey's first declarations to the 911 operator, we shall never know, but the situation didn't and still doesn't sit right with me.
Within 10 minutes of Joey's call, Officer Kenneth Greguski of the Amityville Village Police Department arrived at 112 Ocean Avenue. By now, the men were in their front yard with Butch, who by all counts was broken. After about 20 minutes, the men convinced Butch to come back inside. They then sat around the DeFeo kitchen table as Greguski inspected the scene while awaiting backup. Butch was now saying over and over that it was only his mother and father that were dead before re-entering the home. The officer at the scene reported Butch screaming, "My mother and father are dead," as he beat the hood of his car. By this time, the locals had begun to gather, followed by detectives, police officials, and legions of reporters. Kenneth Greguski, or Kenneth as we call him, failed to lock down the crime scene, which was the first major mistake on that evening. Detective Gasper Randazzo, Gasper as we will call him, was the first to question Butch in the kitchen.
Butch, while sobbing, had still managed to go for a smoke and pour himself a stiff drink. Butch told Gasper where he had been that day and how he found the bodies. When asked who he thought was responsible, Butch asserted it was a mafia hit. The name he mentioned was Louis Fellini, and this was the same name he had yelled out as the culprit at Henry's bar. Fellini, whose backstory and connection to the family was covered in last episode, was indeed involved in organised crime, but by all accounts he had no grudge with the family. Butch told Gasper his family had fallen out with the hitman over a botched paint job, and that the alleged hitman had kicked off. Butch said his father escorted him from the car lot, but later told Butch in his grandfather's office that he was worried about the altercation, as Fellini was indeed a hitman. Butch then added his father had another run-in with Fellini soon after over his son's drug debts, and yelled, "If anything happens to my son, I'll kill you and your whole family."
Butch was the only witness to both incidents, but Detectives Gerard Godoloff suspected that Ronnie be put into protective custody if indeed the killings were linked with organised crime. Butch's original story, told as his kitchen table, was that he had been up all night and couldn't sleep, so he got dressed and left early for work. He said that as far as he knew, his family was alive when he left the house before 5 a.m. After signing his statement, Butch was driven by homicide detectives to Force Presence headquarters, where he was interviewed again. Butch continued to insist that Fellini was connected with the murders. He explained that Fellini had lived with the DeFeo family briefly and knew of a certain area in the basement Butch and his father had stored a collection of cash and gems. This area would later become the Red Room. With continued questioning throughout the night, Butch seemed more intense in his willingness to cooperate, admitting petty robberies he and his friends had taken part in. Feeling they had pulled enough information from him, the detectives allowed Butch to sleep while they returned to the scene of the murder to look for clues and question his friends.
As Butch slept, his statement began to collapse. Officers building up the case discovered Butch had failed to inform them that during the days leading up to the murders, he had been trying to buy a silencer for his rifle. Further questioning of Butch's friends revealed Butch was also a gun fanatic, and he had even bought heroin from a friend just hours after the murder and bragged about him being able to get away with murder. Another friend of Butch who was questioned informed detectives that Butch hated his mother because she was a lousy cook, and his two brothers were a couple of pigs, and his opinion of his sisters was just as damning.
He had also failed to inform police that at 6 p.m. on the day of the murders, he had already called one of his friends, pretending to be surprised that someone had already broken into the family house. His statement at the station following the massacre was certainly a far cry statement. he had given at the kitchen table of what had unfolded before discovering the bodies. In his second statement, he stated that he spent the afternoon drinking with two friends and shot up some heroin. He claimed he then returned to Amityville when he planned to meet Bobby. Bobby, who was interviewed, claimed that DeFeo did indeed meet him at Henry's bar, complaining that he was locked out and he was going to have to break a window to get in. One local alleged Butch was seen many hours before the discovery, simply hanging near the train station, and that he was with two local lads known to deal drugs, and he was with a female who resembled his sister. As you all know from episode 1, another neighbour also saw Butch on the day of the murder and stated he was seen with Geraldine, while another said he was seen with a girl he was seeing but didn't know Geraldine.
As Butch slept, a more careful search of the DeFeo home continued. This turned up a box of ammunition in Butch's room in an alcove. The box was empty, but matched the weapon that killed the family. Butch was blissfully unaware, as the drama unfolded, that ballistics had already discovered what weapon had been used on all the victims. The weapon was not at the scene, but the ammunition boxes were. The timeline of death also pointed to the fact that the murders occurred in the early morning, which meant that Butch was at home at the time of the murders. With this knowledge, the detectives assigned to the case went to wake Butch, who was asleep in a cot in the police file room. As Butch woke, Harrison began to inform him of his rights. It said at that point Butch became anxious, yelling that he was innocent and that he had nothing to do with the murders. After being read his rights, the detectives on duty were relieved, and another set of detectives continued to press at the discrepancies in Butch's story and his involvement. This time, they allegedly used brute force. Butch later changed his story and alleged that he had now been awakened by Fellini at gunpoint and made to accompany him as Fellini did away with each member of his family. He went even further to describe how he had discarded the evidence in a sewer in Brooklyn. Another story was that Fellini had an unnamed accomplice, and the two hitmen forced Butch to witness the murders before stating, "This is for what you did to me." After hours of intense questioning at 6 p.m, Butch again changed his story, eventually stating, "It all started so fast. Once I started, I just couldn't stop. It went so fast."
Butch said that on 12th November he awoke alone and loaded his rifle, and with his TV on to drown out the noise, he shot his mom and dad. He then shot Alison before killing his brothers. Dawn awoke and he said he assured her it was just his TV and to go back to bed. At that point he followed and shot her too. After shooting them, he then took a shower, gathered his bloody clothes and put the gun into a pillowcase and left for his 6 a.m. shift at his grandfather's car dealership. The version, however, failed to explain the time frame of how quickly the deaths occurred, but the detectives were happy to close the case and allow Amityville to get back to normality.
On his way there, he dumped the gun and clothes in a storm drain. He then called home at around 9 a.m, pretending that he didn't know why his father didn't show up for work that day. At noon, he left for the day to hang out with some friends. This led up to 6 p.m.
During the trial, Butch tried for a plea bargain, and it was at this point he claimed that he had accomplices, 4 in fact, Bobby Kelsky and his girlfriend Sherry and 2 others. Butch also claimed it was the other gang members that had done the killing, as he ransacked the home looking for his father's stash of cash. During the trial, he added that Dawn was also involved and that she had calmly killed the younger children on November the 21st, 1975. Butch DeFeo was found guilty on 6 counts of second-degree murder.
Throughout the trial, it was hard to escape the macabre news column inches and the headlines on the murders, but for whatever reason, George and Kathy Lutz managed to. and the couple and their children moved into 112 Ocean Avenue on December 19, 1975, 15 days after Butch was sentenced to 6 concurrent sentences of 25 years to life by Judge Thomas Stark.
The Lutz family not only moved into the home, but they also bought the DeFeo family's furniture that was still in the house because it was included for $400 as part of the deal. And on that cliffhanger,
on next Wednesday's show, Wednesday the 24th at 11 p.m, we'll be covering George and Kathy Lutz's obsession with the black art and how the house turned their lives upside down.
And how, even after they left the house, the home's curse attached itself to them and continued to disturb their life. On August the 17th, 2004, Kathleen Teresa Lutz died of emphysema, and George Lee Lutz died of heart disease on May the 8th, 2006. Seriously, it's crazy. If you thought Poltergeist was mad, you haven't heard anything